Communication Error.
Welcome to episode 46 of the Communication Error podcast. I don't even know. The community patch notes. Well, whatever. We're keeping it in. We're doing the community patch notes episode of virtual reality and the future of VR in gaming. But before we get into it, we have a very special guest. You might have heard them on the RPG Cave or the PlayStation Drive at Carpool Gaming. We have Ryan Turford. Thanks for being here. How are you?
I am doing well. First of all, thank you so much for having me. And second of all, I'm gonna slightly blame the abrupt start to the show to the time change, because no one likes the time change. The time change just happened last night from the night we're recording.
I lost an hour of sleep, and I love my sleep. So
same. It's also, I'd be a little bit worried because I was like, oh my god, are these guys in like a time zone where they don't do the time change, so that I'm gonna arrive at the wrong time? Oh my god.
Well, who doesn't do it? Arizona? I know Arizona. Well, parts of Arizona doesn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, one of my co-hosts on the PlayStation Drive, Fuya, she lives in Australia, and they don't do the time change for another month and a half. So it's already kind of crazy coordinating with someone in Australia who's already 16 hours ahead of you, but then you have to adjust for the fact that they haven't done the time change yet, and then they'll do the time change again in a month and a half. So it's gonna be weird, man. It's weird.
And you're from Canada, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I live in I'm in the big city, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. But
because I was gonna say you are the first Canadian on this podcast, but that is not true actually, because Riley Little took that spot. So
okay. Yeah, I mean Riley's in town too. So we're two Toronto boys.
Nice.
Two of us so far. Maybe I'm surprised you haven't had someone like Sean on here or some other Canadians. But
hey, we want Sean, but like he's so busy.
Well, that's true.
So if you can put in a word for us, that'd be great.
We're also being carried by Carpool Gaming right now. Like we had Bowser last 2 weeks ago. We had Locklith on, and we had Seth on before. So Carpool is really carrying the show. So thank you.
There you go. You've got four of us down, and there's only like
now there's like 12. So we
of us to go. Because we've got a lot of people over at Carpool now. A couple months ago, you might have actually been pretty close to getting the whole crew with that number, but no, we got we infinitely expanded. We now have so many new awesome hosts over at Carpool.
So you've been with Carpool the whole time, right? Like
oh yeah. I've been with Carpool before it was Carpool, when it was Yumi Capri, because it was Bobby Pauls and Sean to start with, and then I joined the crew back in 2019 after doing kind of my old podcast called the Game Moose podcast. I was telling Cheesy off air that this year marks 10 years of me doing podcasts, which is just weird to think about. Yeah. But I've been with Carpool since 2019, so 5 years now. And then after Bobby's unfortunate passing, it was just me and Sean doing Yumi Capri, and then we brought in a bunch of awesome folks, and then it kind of morphed into Carpool Gaming from there.
So what's the secret to 10 years of doing podcasts? What's the secret to keep doing them?
The main secret is just if you enjoy talking about games and you keep playing games and that's what you want to talk about, then I think podcasting is the perfect outlet for it. In fact, it's kind of weird to think about the idea of not doing podcasting, because I'm like, well, if I'm playing all these games, like who am I going to talk about them with? Like I need to talk about some of these games. I need an outlet for that, and podcasting has always been a great outlet for me for that. I mean, I know like I'm just personally very passionate about talking about games. Like that's just always kind of been my thing ever since I was a kid. So podcasting has just always been the perfect outlet for it. And for me, don't find that it's going to end anytime soon. Like I would imagine, maybe another 10 or 15 years, I'll probably still be doing podcasting, which would be weird to think about, but it's going to be a thing, I think.
That's amazing. Congrats on that.
Oh, thank you.
I've been collecting Amiibo for 10 years.
That's exciting. I mean, my mom came to visit yesterday because I just moved into this new place, which is why it's a little bit barren at the moment. And she brought me this box of stuff that I left at her place, and it has all my Amiibos. So now they're sitting here at my desk. I've got little Pac-Man Amiibo, got the Yarn Yoshi Amiibo. I've got
that's
all the Amiibo For Smash Brothers pre the DLC characters, because I never really collected any of the DLC characters. But I've just got a box of them just sitting under my desk here. So I might just pull them out at random times while we do the show.
I like it. So you're the host on RPG Cave. I talked a little bit about before the show. I'm playing an RPG right now, and I'm hooked on RPGs. I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's fantastic. And I think I started playing it because I heard like Sean and them on the Nintendo Drive just praising it. But now you had mentioned
Xenobabes.
Yeah,
it was a whole movement in our Discord and across our shows.
Well, I'm all aboard.
Movement. In fact, we it was so much of a movement. We even had a shirt. The Xenobabes shirt was a thing.
Well, now I got to get that because I'm all in now. But another series that I never really got into, but I want to. I own like a lot of them is the Persona series. I know you said that you'll be talking about Persona 3 Reload on your show, and I want to get it. Well, I have Game Pass, so I guess I could play it on there, but I want it on the Switch. So it's not on the Switch, and I don't know why.
Well, I mean, the game itself, it's a step above Persona 5 in terms of visual quality. Like, I imagine Persona 3 Reload will be a Switch 2 launch window title, or just it'll be on Switch 2, is what I'm assuming, because I think it's just a little too powerful for the standard Switch, and I think that's why it didn't come there. So, and I think Sega was probably banking on the fact that Switch 2 is going to be out this year as opposed to next year, which would make sense to wait on launching it on original Switch and kind of compressing it down a little bit like they had to do for 5. So yeah, I think it's going to be a little while before you want to play it on Switch. But
I'm trying to support Atlas. I'm trying to support Atlas on the Switch. I bought Unicorn Overlord. I haven't played it too much. Sorry, I'm sidetracking. Like, we're not talking about RPGs. Maybe we should, because like now I kind of want to.
I mean, you're doing the Lord's work right now by buying Unicorn Overlord right there. That's
because they ran out of money or something. I don't even know. There was like a weird story where they ran out of money during development. So, I just have to support them.
Yeah, I mean, I love Vanillaware's games, whether it's 13 Sentinels or Dragon's Crown or Muramasa. Like, all those games are incredible. So I've been so excited for Unicorn Overlord ever since they announced it. And I've been biding my time, because I also picked it up to sit down and jump into it now that I finished Persona and some other stuff. How
do you play that many long games? How is it like I'm 8 hours into Xenoblade. I'm like, man, this is going to be a long ride.
Right. I mean, for me, first of all, I focus on one game at a time is kind of my thing. Like, I don't spread myself out between a bunch of different games. But I just honestly don't have a lot of responsibilities outside of work besides, maintaining myself. I don't really have like a lot of other hobbies that aren't game related. So I just have a lot of my free time is just devoted to games. So that just, plays into that a little bit as to why I can get through some of these longer games. But I mean, Persona 3, it took me about a month and a half to finish it because, I had my move and everything else. So I wasn't able to get through it as quick as I wanted to. But I still finished it about like 60 hours, I think, is what the final total was for me when I finished it, which is a much better ask than something like Persona 5 Royal was, because that's like a 130-hour game.
Ugh.
So yeah, it is definitely much better. But and plus I've taken a break from Final Fantasy 14, which has certainly helped my ability to play other games too.
Well, I'm hoping I could get through this game and then go on to another one, because Nintendo literally has nothing coming out this year. So
we don't know that. We don't know that.
I mean, what are you talking about? They just announced release dates for 2 brand new games today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we knew about.
Pressing Your Door is really good. It's going to be a good release, I think. But
anyway,
yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, we're both wearing the Metroid paraphernalia. We're both waiting for Metroid Prime 4 or Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remastered, or literally anything second half of the year. And I would imagine they have something.
I hope not.
Yeah, I would too, because if they have anything new, Johnny has to do the one chip challenge, because he doesn't believe that anything new is coming from Nintendo. Because that was the caveat, is that if they announce Metroid, that one doesn't count, because it would be nice.
It's
for
heavily
everyone.
rumored. It's heavily rumored right now.
Right. But outside of Metroid, there has to be something. The last game that we know of right now is Luigi's Mansion 2, which comes out in June. That's their release schedule. And I just, maybe there's some remakes here and there, but it's not going to be 6 months of remakes and remasters.
We have 6 months of remakes right now.
I actually kind of like disagree with you, Cheesy, a little bit. Like, I actually think we're probably in for another 6 months of remakes with the Fall 2. Because, like, I imagine kind of the lineup that they probably look at is like Genealogy of the Holy War remake, maybe the Zelda re-release or two, and then maybe Metroid Prime 2 and 3. That's probably what we're looking at. If there's a new game at all, it's probably Metroid Prime 4, I'm guessing.
Well, Ryan, it is Mario Day, and we thought it would be kind enough to bring on a PlayStation guest, but I see how this is turning into...
We do have a question for Mario Day.
We do have a question. Not just for Mario Day, but every guest that comes on to the show.
Okay.
Take it away, Johnny.
So we asked if you like Super Mario World or Super Mario Bros. 3 more.
Ooh. That's a spicy one, but I don't even have to think about this one. It's easy peasy for me. It's Super Mario Bros. 3. I mean,
yeah,
it's happening.
I mean, I'm sorry. I like Mario World, but I think what gives Mario 3 the edge over Mario World for me personally is the aesthetics of Mario 3. I love the aesthetics, the music from Mario 3 more than Mario World, because I do think, as far as the platforming and the level design, I think they're both, on par with each other when it comes to it, especially if you don't use the warp whistles in Mario 3. If you play through all of the levels in Mario 3, like it can feel like a bit of a slog by the time that you get to the end of the game, but I feel the same way if you play all the levels in Mario World 2. But I don't know. It's something about having, the Tanuki suit and the enemy design and just, the music and the world design of Mario 3 that I just really put that over the edge for me personally over Mario World. But that's just how I personally feel. Like, I totally understand why people feel the opposite way and like Mario World better too, because I think it's more of a stylistic choice for people, or just what you grew up on. And because I'm an old person and I grew up with the NES, like the NES was the console that really got me into games. Like Mario 3, of course, was probably going to be my nostalgic pick.
Nice.
So this whole year has been Super Mario Bros. 3. Everybody that has come on this year has been Super Mario Bros. 3. All last year was Super Mario Bros. World. So we're catching up. It's like 7-4 right now. Super Mario World's ahead.
And I would ask to see the script that Johnny sent you, but I also know that Johnny isn't that great of a writer, so I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. I'm gonna figure it out one day, though.
Yeah. All right, we got sidetracked. We got sidetracked a lot today. I'm sorry, but I wanted to talk about RPGs.
Yeah, and no disrespect to Mario World. I think Mario World is a fantastic game, but it's just, I got to give it the edge. And of course, Johnny, if you know me at all, you probably will know that I could just talk about RPGs all day, because that's just my jam.
Yeah. Do you want to just plug your shows real quick and what you do, what you guys talk about?
Absolutely. So the two shows I do over at Carpool Gaming. First off, the RPG Cave is a weekly show that we do about role-playing games. So every week, myself and my co-host Garrett Bland will pick a random RPG topic, or we'll talk about dive deep on a specific game or a franchise or something RPG related. And we just talk about it, talk it out. So that's every Monday night, 11 p.m. Eastern time on the Carpool Gaming YouTube channel, youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. And like all of our shows, by the way, at Carpool Gaming are live to the internet, and then we also put them on podcast feeds around the globe as well, if you are an audio listener. And the PlayStation Drive, every Saturday night, me and my three co-hosts, we just talk about PlayStation. Usually a lot of the show is dominated by what we're playing, and then also just listener questions, because sometimes we get so many listener questions for that show that it takes an hour and a half to get through them. So that just usually ends up dominating the show. But it's a lot of fun. We just did an episode on Saturday about the PS2 turning 24. So we talked about like some of our PS2 memories and favorite games from the console and stuff like that. So that's every Saturday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time over on the Carpool Gaming channel. Or again, we're on podcast feeds and everywhere else as well.
Yeah, Carpool Gaming, for all the listeners, is one of the best. Like, it's just a positive light in the community. I mean, you guys are doing awesome things. It seem like you're all friends and are just having a great time, just bringing joy to others. And so I can't recommend Carpool Gaming enough. And what you guys do over there it's just great.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of what we've built with the community with Carpool, because for us, it's really just, you know, a group of us just being friends and just hanging out and talking about games together, whether you're on the shows or not. Like, that's one of the things I love about our Discord and our community and just in general, is that everyone can, you know, just be themselves and come hang out and have a great time. You know, we have a lot of, you know, community run events thing as well. Like, we have a thing called the Backtrackers, which is run by the community, which is like a monthly book club for video games. But we also have a lot of sections of the Discord where we talk about, you know, movies or fitness or just whatever else we want to talk about. So yeah, I think it's a great place to hang out. Again, our Discord, we have a link to it in the description of all of our podcasts. So if you ever want to join up and be part of the Carpool community, the link's there, or just go to our website, carpoolgaming.com, has all the info there as well.
Awesome.
Cool. And you can also join our community on Discord and Calm Error Podcast. And if you want to be part of shows like this, the community patch notes episodes, where you can leave your questions and comments and we'll read them to our special guests. And yeah, Johnny, what are we talking about?
We are, well, last week we talked about the future of VR gaming, and we don't know, me and Cheesy know nothing about this. I learned a lot from the comments, and it looks like you have, is that a VR2, PlayStation VR2 or one behind you?
VR2, of course. I can't get it right there. There we go. I'm pointing at it. Official. Yes,
so
I have a PlayStation VR2. I had a VR1 before, but I haven't really owned another VR headset. Like, I don't have an Oculus or like a Meta, like, or anything like that. Like, I don't have another VR headset. So only working with the PlayStation side of things when it comes.
So
to
what
VR.
are your thoughts on the PlayStation VR?
So first off, the headset itself is awesome. It's a big improvement over the first PSVR, especially with like the image quality is just so much sharper, because, you know, looking through the goggles of the first PlayStation VR was kind of just like looking through like glasses that were covered in Vaseline is usually how I'll describe it, because it was just, you know, so low picture quality because of the power of the PlayStation 4, and you had the processing box that had to basically process the video and actually make it display correctly on the headset. It just was not like a great looking image, and it actually led to me, who's someone who's not really prone to motion sickness, being really motion sick while playing the PlayStation VR 1. And I definitely think that the VR2 has really helped in all regards. I also think the included controllers, the motion controllers that come with it, are also a big improvement over the original headset as well. So I think the headset itself is fantastic, and I'm actually really excited because Sony announced recently that they're actually working on support for PC. So you can actually use your PlayStation VR with your PC, which will open the door to a lot of different possibilities as to what you're able to do with it. So I'm actually really excited for that aspect. But as much as I like the headset itself, the problem is there just isn't enough support either from Sony or just from developers for PlayStation VR 2. You can definitely tell that it's definitely on the back burner of Sony's as far as, you know, where they position the headset or how they even want to support that headset, where they don't really support it at all. Every once in a while we'll get like a PlayStation blog post with some indie games coming to the headset, but beyond that, like, Sony's not out there trying to really even sell the headset at this point, despite the fact that, you know,
I went online. I didn't know how much it cost. I thought it was like, I knew it was a few $100s. I knew it was at least like $400. It's $550. That's more than a PS5.
Well, wait, how much is that in Canadian money?
$700.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that's if you just want the normal bundle and not the one that comes with Horizon. Which
that one's $600.
Yeah.
Well, in US dollars. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's almost 800 Canadian dollars.
Jeez.
Yeah. But because, yeah, you're right. Like, the price is a big factor as to why people haven't jumped on it. And I mean, Sony kind of has to sell it at that price because of how they designed the headset in order to, you know, get some kind of profit off the thing. But yeah, it makes it tough because, you know, since there isn't a groundswell of support for games or things to use the headset with, it's just not really worth the price investment to 99% of people looking
so
at that
you need to spend essentially $1,000. Well, in America. I'm sorry, I'm American, but you
I used
essentially
to live in America, so I can do the conversion. It's all good.
Okay, so you have to essentially spend $1,000 because you need a PS5, right? You can't. It's not. You don't. You can't play without it.
Yep, we're not at the point yet. Like I said, the support is coming for PC at some point. They've announced that it's coming, but we don't have a really like a date for that yet. It should be sometime this year, they said though. So right now, yes, you need to buy a PS5 and a VR headset in order to use it. And that's without any games or anything to use it with at that point.
So it sounds like from what you're saying is that there was a lot of improvement from the first headset to the second headset. So they obviously see some potential with it if they're wanting to improve it, but then there's no support or they're not really backing it that much. So why do you think that they are trying to make it happen? Like, is it just that they're trying to get ahead of everybody else for when VR hits, or like, is there just something that they see that we're not seeing?
Yeah, I think that they saw with the first headset that there was enough interest in VR that it was worth pursuing doing a second headset. I know like Shuhei Yoshida in a bunch of interviews talked about the idea of the PlayStation VR 1 very much being like the PlayStation 1 launch to them. And they really wanted to come out with a bang with PlayStation VR 2, which is why I think they put all of their effort into making an amazing product. But it's priced out of the reach of what people are able to most normal people are able to spend or want to spend on a headset. And, you know, beyond the launch window of games where we had Horizon and a few other games, like it's a very slow trickle at this point. And you can definitely tell like a lot of developers are moving away from PlayStation VR and moving away to MetaQuest instead at this point. And not developing for PlayStation VR. Which
so is it just a display piece behind you? Have you used it recently?
I mean, I've used it since moving into this apartment, but it is going. I imagine that without much support in the future, it's going to just become a display piece at this point. Or eventually, again, when they open up PC support, I definitely will get much more use out of it. I think using it on PC, but it depends on how they restrict it on PC as well, because we also keep hearing rumblings that like Sony is working on their own PC store, kind of like Microsoft has with the Windows Game Store. And it might just be limited to games that are available on the PlayStation PC store and you're not able to use it with other VR games on Steam or Epic, which would also just kill the usage for that headset as well. So it's going to be really interesting to see when they announce when that's PC support's coming as to, you know, what's coming with it. But honestly, I'm just so disappointed with Sony just kind of giving up at this point, like bringing out, you know, going all out for the launch of the headset, which was last February. So it's been over a year now, but we haven't seen a first party game announced for it, or even really a big third party game, or much of a reason to own the headset outside of, you know, small quirky indie games, which are still fun in VR. Like there are some good VR games for PlayStation VR 2.
Didn't Astrobot start as a VR game?
Sorry?
Didn't Astrobot start as a VR game?
It did. The original Astrobot game was a VR only game, and it was incredible. It was one of the best games that came out that year on the console at all, let alone just on the VR headset. But the thing that kind of killed this headset in particular as well, there's no backwards compatibility with any of the PSVR 1 software. So as good as Astrobot is, you can't go back and play it using the new headset. And they had to do that because of the way that the headset is designed, because of the way that it senses motion. It's different from how the PSVR 1 senses motion and how it displays the image. And as a result, they had to make it not backwards compatible, which, you know, killed it, because it basically means it's relying on whatever new software is coming out for it. But if new software isn't coming out, well, then what do you do?
Mm-hmm. So I guess right now Sony is the only console maker that has a VR headset. I mean, we can count Nintendo for Labo, you know, I guess it's kind of VR.
Count out Labo VR. The car, you build it yourself. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if what you're saying is the reason why Labo isn't that great is because of the person that built it. Is that what you're saying?
Clearly. That's
what you're saying. You're trying to lead this into like I have one, so that's why it's not good. But you
That's,
want to talk
I mean,
about
I've heard
low
you
resolution?
complain about it a lot.
You want to talk about low resolution screens? Use Labo VR, and I've never used PlayStation VR, but I can imagine there's no way it could be that bad. There's no way.
No. In fact, actually, one of the best benefits for the PlayStation VR 2 outside of games that actually makes great use of the headset is watching movies. Like because what you can actually do is you can go into this like movie theater mode where you have like this big picture in front of you that it basically plays the movie on a big like theater screen. And it looks really good in the headset. Like it actually makes great use of the 4K screens that are in each eyepiece of the PlayStation VR 2. So it's actually like, again, that the headset itself is fantastic. It's not supported with enough software, and I think that's why it's kind of in the position it's in right now.
Yeah, so I mean, we've talked a lot about just VR in general and not necessarily having to do with games. But some of the community says like uh, Nola's guy says if you have the Oculus or MetaQuest, be sure to get back in now. You got to convert to Facebook or whatever you bought previously will be gone.
I think it's
Which
by
in
the end
my
of March.
case,
Yeah.
At the end of March.
Yeah, it's by the end of March.
Which in my case is a lot of Beat Saber songs. And then we have Alex P on Twitter that said, I actually did the Toad Treasure Tracker with my Switch VR, but I wouldn't play a full game. Crux_57 says there's a game store near my house, and I've gone with my brothers a few times recently to play in their VR room. We've had a good time with it. Beat Saber, Super Hot are great games, but anything that uses joysticks to move is nauseating. I mean, we hear that a lot, and thanks to Bowza and Jeff Troyvania, who let us know that you can have prescription lenses in VR headsets. Yep. I didn't even know that was a thing. I mean, that makes sense. I don't wear glasses, so I was asking Johnny if he has to wear his glasses and then wear the headset over them. Obviously, yes, because then he can't see. Yep. So it's nice that there are improvements and they're trying to make VR a thing. Mm-hmm. And with Apple Vision Pro, that is $3,500. I don't know how much is that in Canada.
It's too much. It's like $6,000.
Okay, wait, what? $6,000?
Yeah, after taxes and everything else. Yeah,
it's not worth $6,000. But anyway, we talked about if there's anybody that can make VR happen, it's probably Apple with just innovation and what they're able to do with just modern day living. Right now, maybe not yet, but it could happen. But this is a gaming podcast. And right now, it just doesn't seem like there's that many games or really the VR. I think when you think of VR, you think of gaming first. Mm-hmm. And that is not how it is right now.
No, and it's one of those things too where I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but also a lot of people get motion sick when using VR as well, especially with games. So I actually think in the long run, the future of VR is not probably in games. It's probably with doing other things with it, like using it for, other ways of enriching your life, or maybe watching content, like watching movies, or, doing other things with VR. Like, I don't think the application of games is probably a worthwhile, like, I just don't think that's gonna, like, the long-term future of VR is just in games in particular.
So yeah, you think it's a gimmick as far as gaming?
I don't know
if
I'd call it a
VR
gimmick, because I think there will still always be people developing VR games, and I still think it's more of a niche, more than anything. So, like, in this, I would compare it to rhythm games in a lot of ways, because like some people call Rock Band or Guitar Hero gimmicks, but I just refer to rhythm games as like a very niche gaming genre. So I would put VR into that bucket over there as well, because there are, like I said, there are some great VR gaming experiences, and I do think that it can be a good place to play games, but will it ever become the way we play games in the future? No, I don't think so. Will it ever become like the dominant way we play games in the future, or like have like big games there in the future? I don't think so either. Like, I think it's for a certain subset of people, and that's okay. Like, I think that it just needs to find its own market, and I think that's totally fine.
So I I think I tweeted about how like nobody bought a VR headset, and then everybody's like, "No, you're wrong." So I looked it up, and the Meta Quest 2 sold 20 million units,
Yeah.
which is
Whoa.
more than the Wii U.
Yeah. No, the Meta Quest like flew off shelves. Like it's very popular, especially with children. It like I have a bunch of aunts and uncles, and they all have small children, and one of the things their kids all asked for were VR headsets, not PlayStation VR headset, mind you, but the Meta Quest. And it's one of the cheaper headsets on the market, so it's very cost efficient, and there's a lot of support for software because it is a very open-ended platform, because it is mostly a PC platform, but also there are games designed specifically for the headset because it works with both. Whereas PlayStation VR is just too restrictive because you have to have a PlayStation 5 and then you have to have a PlayStation VR. And then at that point, there are only like a certain number of people. Like you're already limiting yourself at that point.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of games are they playing? Do you have any idea of like what? Because I don't know. I don't know what kids are playing these days.
Yeah, that's the thing. I honestly don't keep up with what they're playing. A lot of stuff like Roblox, as an example.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
A lot of games like that, or I think there's a bunch of Minecraft clones that have kind of popped up on the store. I know that's what a lot of them are playing as well. So stuff like that. Like I think that's what a lot of younger audiences are into nowadays. Anyways, is a lot of these games that would usually exist on phone, but also are developed for VR headsets, because you see a lot of that as well. Where like some of these companies that develop mobile games also develop them for VR. But yeah, I don't really pay too much attention to the Meta environment, since I just don't have a Meta Quest myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. It's just surprising, I guess, when you think about Sony's library and like what they could do, especially because they are very story driven. They probably could make some really great VR games and be able to sell more headsets if, I mean, like Call of the Mountain, how well did that do? Do you know?
I think the game itself was pretty good. It was a mountain climbing simulator that also had some Horizon style combat where you fought robot dinosaurs, and it was a fairly fun game, and it was one of the best selling games for the headset, mainly because it came with a bundle for the headset, so of course it was going to sell well. But honestly, I think probably the biggest game on PlayStation VR 2 currently is Resident Evil 4. Because Resident Evil 4 got the free update with the VR support, and I think it's done really, really well. In fact, Capcom has killed it, because all the modern Resident Evil games, except for 7, are all supported on PlayStation VR 2. So like you can go back and play Resident Evil 8, or you can play Resident Evil 4, and they're both really good in PlayStation VR. So I think that's like the Capcom is like in a lot of ways like outshining Sony as far as support for the headset in a lot of ways. Yeah, and they offer it as free DLC. Like you're not even, as long as you own the game normally, you don't have to pay extra for the VR content, which is awesome.
That's why I bought. I have MetaQuest too. I bought it because of Resident Evil 4, and that was I think that was the only way at the time you could play Resident Evil 4 VR.
Yeah. Well, again, like but those are two different versions as well, because the version that you have on your headset is based off the original Resident Evil 4, whereas the one that we have on
it's
VR2
the new one.
Is the remake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Do I want to spend $550 to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's the full blown Resident Evil 4 remake experience in VR, and it's awesome. Like you play, and it's also really interesting too, because you play Resident Evil 4 remake in first person instead of third person using the headset. So it gives you a brand new perspective on the game as well.
Yeah, so I'm gonna buy the PSVR 2 soon.
There you go. There you go. I mean, I love Resident Evil, so that gets me very excited.
Yeah, can I make my money back off of it?
Yeah, can you make a video?
What kind of troll video can I make?
Yeah.
But
throw
we
money
have
in the toilet.
Like to Collect 64 says, I still play my Oculus some. Resident Evil 4 was an incredible experience, and I've yet to find another game like that on the Oculus, so I mainly play Beat Saber. I mean, like you said, rhythm games seem really successful on VR headsets.
Yep. Well, Beat Saber's also on PlayStation VR 2 as well. Like they did an upgrade for it, and it's also a great way to play that game too. Tetris Effect also has another good rhythm game on there too.
You don't have to sell me on it anymore. I'm getting it. I'm all right. It's in my cart.
Just trying to push it all over to you, please.
Toxtra on Twitter said, "I have a Quest 1 and enjoy it, but Meta stopped supporting it. So I haven't used it in some time, but would love to get a Quest 3 since they've really improved their PC support." And Toxtra is Todd over at Secret Friends Unite. That's a great podcast as well. So go listen to that.
Absolutely. He's a big member of the carpool community as well. He's
he
very
is
active in our Discord and stuff.
Yeah. I was just seeing how much Meta Quest 3 is.
Yeah.
What do you find?
Well, there's different models starting at $500, but you don't need a PC for it. You don't need anything else.
That's all you need. It literally comes with everything you need in the box, which is just one of the things that, like, one of the limiting factors for PlayStation VR 2.
Do you see us living in a world where everyone is just wearing VR headsets the way that we saw with the release of Apple Vision Pro out
in Ready Player One?
Ready Player One style. I mean, is that going to happen, you think?
I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in the near future. It might not even happen within our lifetimes. But I could see a future where that will be the case, where it's not even, it might not even be like big bulky VR headsets like we have now, but maybe even something closer to what, the Google Glasses idea was, like having everyone has their own HUD that they have that instead of carrying a phone or whatever, you wear like some glasses or a headset or something around everywhere that you go, or eventually you'll get like a chip put in your brain and then you'll just be hooked into the Matrix all the time.
Yeah, it's very it gets.
We might be in are we in the Matrix? Isn't that the whole point of the Matrix? Like we're in the Matrix, but then we don't know that we're in the Matrix.
Yeah, but then you go even deeper into the Matrix. That's how that works.
Oh yeah.
Kind of like dream within a dream, like in Inception.
Yeah.
Man, I hope not. I hope this isn't the Matrix. Like if somebody made me an accountant, that would suck.
Come on, it'd be fun. You'd get to work with numbers all day. You'd get to work on balance sheets. It'd be great.
Yeah, Johnny, isn't it great, the job you already do?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so glad the orchestrator made me a tax accountant. Yay.
Look, it'll be fun for the whole family, okay? It'll be great. It'll be great. But no, seriously, I just don't think in our lifetime we're going to probably see that, or at least in my lifetime, because I'm already old. So I mean, I don't imagine that I'm going to maybe see the day where we're all wearing VR headsets everywhere. But I think you'll have some sort of semblance of that, whether it is like a microchip in your brain or like glasses that you wear or something like that. Like I think
I'm thinking
something more refined and sleek than a headset that goes over your head while you walk everywhere.
There's an episode of Black Mirror where they put contacts in their eyes, and then you have a way to like control if you want to block someone in life, like you don't want to see them anymore, and if you block them, they just become this like fuzzy individual. So like that person will never get to see you again because that's what they choose to do. And like I don't know, Black Mirror is it's a very good show, and it was all about technology just what if? And now I feel like we're kind of there, but I do want to address something real quick because I kind of was talking about how apps are watching us, because I thought that was the case. I haven't looked into it, so I may be wrong, but Jeff Troyvania called me out just saying, just listen to the last 15 minutes of the episode where Cheesy goes into conspiracy theories. Both Android and iOS have a feature where if your microphone or camera is on, there's a notification on the top of the screen to let you know. iOS, it's orange dot, and it's a similar thing on Android. And an app can't access the camera or microphone on either platform unless you explicitly give it the permission, and it can only get those permissions by asking you when a function that uses either the camera or microphone is invoked. So no, apps aren't spying on you with the camera or the microphone. It's actually much, much, much worse than that.
That's what they want you to think.
I know. Well,
it's one of those things where if you're getting spied on, it's your own fault because you turned it on.
So I mean, I never want to speak from a conspiracy level if I don't know what I'm talking about. shouldn't say anything. But I also just think that it is possible.
They're spying. What are you talking about? They're spying on us. Like that is 100% happening. Like it's not a conspiracy theory.
It's no coincidence where like I'll have a conversation with someone about some random like Pepsi as an example, and then all of a sudden I'll go on YouTube on my phone and watch a video, and all of a sudden I'm getting an ad for Pepsi.
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird when like you show a reel or a TikTok, and it's like you show the video to someone, and then like days later that video comes across their For You page, whether they like that would be on their algorithm or not. Like I don't know how that works, but
why do you think they want to ban TikTok? Not because they're afraid that some other country's stealing our information. They want to be the only ones that steal our information.
Right. Yeah. Well, Facebook knows so much about us, but that's here nor there. I guess I don't know where to go in this conversation because I want to see VR be the next best thing. Because when you think about
gaming, do you though? Because you don't own a VR headset, so how could you say that you want it to be something? That's not true.
He has Labo.
He doesn't have Labo.
I don't have Labo.
I have Labo. So you can't say you want something to be the next thing and then not support it.
That is kind of how that works.
Well, but can I say that I want it to be the next best thing, but I am not supporting it yet because I don't feel like I need to push out $600 on something that I'm probably just going to have sit on a shelf?
But if they don't make money, they're not going to make it anymore.
I'm pretty sure
probably not going to get a PS.
Tons of money.
We're probably not going to get a PSVR 3. At least not for a very long time.
I mean, I'd be surprised if they don't just stop selling PSVR 2s at some point. I mean, especially if the PC support doesn't bring in like an intake of new users, or Capcom doesn't release another big game in VR2 or something. It's like that. Because we're not seeing a lot of like any other big publishers or developers really doing it. And I think that's part of the problem, like that, why it's never not going to be, the next best thing. Because even with something like the Meta, even though it is a lot more accessible, like I mentioned before, it's still not accessible to every single person because of motion sickness. It's a bigger problem with VR than people would know, and you really won't know whether or not you suffer from motion sickness while using VR until you actually have one on your head and you start using it.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of friends who were excited about VR at first. They tried it out and they found they got really sick, and a lot of these people are not even people who get motion sick while riding in vehicles or anything. It just only happens when you use VR, which is why I would be very skeptical of it ever being the next best thing, kind of thing. In the same way, like it kind of in a way had its heyday the same way that Rock Band and Guitar Hero kind of did in a lot of ways. So again, I'm not calling it a fad. I'm just saying it had it's more of
it's a very long
thought
fad.
It was going to be bigger than it actually was, and it became a niche rather than a fad.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess what I was trying to get at though is like we have come so far in gaming. It's hard to imagine what that next thing is that's going to like impress us, because I feel like the games, you look at something like Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto 6 that's coming out, what is that, next year or 2025? Yeah. Oh, I guess that is 2025. Jeez. And it looks incredible. So, but it's also like kind of expected at the same time. So where do we go from here? And I would think that VR would be the next big thing, but right now, like with gaming, as you're saying, it's just a fad or a very long fad.
No, I think niche is right. I think niche is the right term. Because a fad implies that it was super popular and then just dropped off. But now it's like a steady, like people like VR. Some people like VR, like a certain amount of people, but it's not going up.
Yeah. It's got like its solid community. Kind of like, the people that are just really into really cheesy horror movies from the early 2000s. Like that's just a niche community that's out there that exists, and it's not going away or anything like that. Because a fad is something that goes away and no one talks about it. Kind of like video games were considered a fad at one point, and so retailers just stopped selling them back in the 80s. But you're right. Like in a lot of ways, the games that we're playing now are not too much different than games we were playing on the PlayStation 3 or even the PlayStation 2. Like we're still kind of, games are still kind of built in kind of the same kind of model. And VR, you're right, was kind of a way to you break away from that a little bit and kind of be a big innovation in gaming. And I do think, VR games have innovated within the VR space, but it hasn't really changed the way that games outside of VR are really developed. So I think it's really going to take a developer to develop something outside of VR, but in the traditional way we look at games, and do something different that we haven't really experienced before. In the same way that something like Breath of the Wild did, where, it took the idea of, can I do this in real life to solve this puzzle? Like electrocute this sword and then connect it to this gear to provide electricity to it. Because in real life, you could do that. Like that's like the type of innovation that we're probably looking for in the future.
Breath of the Wild does have a VR mode.
There you go, in Labo.
And did you try it,
Cheesy
Johnny?
didn't support it.
Did you try it?
No, I haven't tried it, no.
You said that you were going to do homework. What homework did you do?
I did say that, but I didn't. I didn't. I didn't turn on my Meta Quest.
Does the PSVR 2, does it have AR?
It does not have AR at all.
Do you think that would help?
For
Sony?
Don't think so. I think because it's locked kind of within the PlayStation ecosystem. No, it might help if you're on the PC side.
It's also attached to the PS5, right? Like it has to be attached.
Well, I mean, it just uses a USB-C cable.
Okay.
So in theory, you just plug it into a USB-C port on your computer. It's just, we just don't have drivers for PC yet, essentially. That's what we're waiting on. So, I think like AR probably wouldn't help it in the PlayStation ecosystem since that's where it's locked to at the moment. But if that support is unlocked on the PC side of things, then it might help. It definitely would open up the design space a little bit more, I think, with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think AR has more potential moving forward because that's essentially what the Apple Vision Pro is. Like it's mostly AR, especially when you see people walking around outside. It's not, it's not focused on the gaming aspect. It's more like quality of life improvements, and that's where I think there's more room for people to get a grasp on. Like I don't think people are gonna get super excited for another sword fighting game.
Yep, it's been done a lot of times in VR at this point. Like there's a lot of sword fighting games.
If
VR.
It's Star Wars, though, it will sell.
There are, at least 5 Star Wars games on the Meta Quest, at least, and they're all lightsaber duels.
Yep,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
doesn't that do well?
But it's not selling. It's probably not selling. Like nobody's buying a Meta Quest to play these lightsaber duels.
Yeah.
How? Maybe you should buy one, Cheesy, and find out if you want to support it so much.
I mean, like, I don't know. I just don't feel the need to get one. We kind of talked about that on the last episode. Is like I'm very curious about Apple Vision Pro, and every time I watch videos on it, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I also just don't think that I would use it every day the way that I use my phone or my AirPods. Like, for me, I think Apple is going to be the one that gets us to use it every day. But right now, that is just not the case. So I don't feel like I need to have VR all the time. And kind of like what you were saying earlier, I probably would just watch a movie, or I'm really big into basketball, so I would watch like a courtside game or something like that. But as far as gaming goes, like I know Beat Saber is huge and just a lot of rhythm games. But for me, I just don't think that I would spend that much time. And I also just don't know how long I can have a headset on for. Like so on average, how long are you like
an hour or two
in that
and
world?
Then you've got to take it off, kind of thing. Like you don't want to have that on the whole day, or anything like that. Like you can't do long playing sessions with it. Like you can't. Like whether or not you'll like your eyes just either won't be able to take it, or just the physical weight of the headset will just be uncomfortable after that amount of time. Which is why, it goes back to what I was talking about before about the idea where in the future, if we're all going to be wearing these things all the time, it won't be a big bulky headset. It will be something much smaller and much more comfortable.
Yeah.
And likewise, I think the Apple Vision Pro is probably designed with that in mind, where you're going to wear it around a little bit more, since it is a little more comfortable than wearing the big bulky PSVR 2. It kind of is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I do like about, there's a lot of content creators out there that do VR stuff, and I think it's really cool when they just have a whole green screen room and they're playing Beat Saber, but like they're in the game. Like, I like that. That's really cool. Shout out to VR content creators.
Saber.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, it's all good. No, so I was gonna say, like, with Apple Vision Pro, like, I think their thought process with that anyways is not really focusing on games anyways. It's just to focus on AR stuff and quality of life stuff, which is just where I think the VR space is mostly going. And then games are kind of going to be like a supplementary thing you do every once in a while with your headsets.
So if you were in charge of PlayStation and you were in charge of the VR department, how would you get people to be interested in your product? What games would you put out, or like what thoughts do you have?
Well, for one thing, you could market the dang thing, because like there isn't even I find like there just isn't even the word out there advertising this product at this point. There were commercials for it when the headset was coming out, but like when was the last time y'all saw a commercial for PSVR on?
Jeez, you didn't even know it's been out for a year.
Didn't.
That's what I mean. Like most people don't even know that it even exists, let alone the fact that that it's currently out there. And I mean, if I was the head of VR, like, market it more. If you can slash the price a little bit, slash the price of it, or maybe even be clever with it and come up with a bundle where it comes with the PlayStation 5, and that's at like a reduced cost. So then that, you're not spending a full like $1,100 Canadian to get both. Like maybe it's 1,000 or a little bit less than that. Like offers of value there, and then obviously trying to kickstart games, whether it's leading by example at Sony and getting some of your developers to work on VR games, or doing something else. But I think like in a lot of ways, like the PlayStation VR 2 is kind of a victim of the Jim Ryan era a little bit, where everything really seemed to be overcosted. The PlayStation 5, for as much as I love the console, it does feel like it was a little bit overcosted, especially when you compare it to the price of the Series X or Series S. Likewise, all the accessories I find are a little bit overcosted, like, or even some of the games are too. Like they there's this level of prestige with Sony products, and there always has been, where they consider them premium products, so they price them accordingly. And a lot of them just price themselves out with a lot of people. Because like when you can get a Meta Quest 2 or even a Meta Quest 3 for a much more affordable price, and you can do more with it, like why would someone go to the PlayStation VR 2? So those are the things that I would want to fix if I was in charge of the VR department. But again, like maybe they know something that we don't know about the cost of developing the headset, or producing it, or why there's a specific reason why they aren't developing games for it, because maybe there's something behind the scenes that we just don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, that's kind of where I'm seeing too, is like they're still continuing to make, like I said earlier, improvements on the VR headset. Like there has to be a reason why they wanted to do that in the first place. Like how well did the first headset sell?
I mean, it sold okay. Like it sold a couple million units. Like I think it was close to like 4 to 5 million. But that's like it's something Shuhei talked about in interviews before. Like that's what they expected it to sell, because they looked at it as a niche product.
Okay.
So they never expected it to set the world on fire. Whereas I don't even think PSVR 2 has hit 1 million units at this point. So in a year. So I think like it's tough. It's tough because if it wasn't for Capcom, there wouldn't be much to play on it at this point.
If I was in charge of the PSVR division, I would shut it down, and I would have them make a handheld instead. If they're gonna have a $500 hardware product, why not make it a handheld?
I have
getting the portal. He's getting the portal. I have the portal.
Look, we have the PlayStation handheld. It's the PlayStation Portal.
I got
it's
one
right
too.
Here.
Me too.
Yeah. Look at this. What handheld would we need besides this at this point?
One that doesn't need Wi-Fi.
I mean, Wi-Fi is good. I thought we all liked Wi-Fi.
Honestly, I do like the Portal for like how I play games.
Mm-hmm.
Like I prefer to play games in handheld, but it does suck that you need to be on Wi-Fi.
But I mean, the last time Sony, also you have to understand too, the last time Sony developed a handheld, no one supported that either.
Well, that was on them, right? They're selling SD cards for whatever $100+ for 32 gigs.
Yeah. No, it was tough. It was tough. Like, and then they might as well have just stuck with Memory Stick Pro Duos at that point, and gone from there. But yeah, I love the Vita, but there was not nearly enough support for that either. In fact, the PS4 VR2 is just in the long line of Sony products that just haven't gotten the support they really deserve in a lot of ways.
They could pull an Xbox when Xbox had the Kinect. They bundled the Kinect with the one of the Xbox Ones when that came out. So they could just, when the PS6 comes out, they could just bundle it with the PSVR.
Yeah, and just have it as like a bundle where you buy them both together. Yeah, I think that's a great way to get those headsets out there. Of course, you need to kind of make sure that there's actually something to do with the headset when you get it. Because I think part of the reason why people aren't buying is the fact that there just isn't enough stuff right now. So, and it's also tough to ask developers to develop items for a headset that isn't selling, but you need developers to develop things for the headset in order for it to sell. Like,
Guerrilla is pulling their weight at Sony. They had Horizon 3 Horizon games in what, like 5 years?
Yeah. Well, you should wait until we get that Horizon Zero Dawn remake that's rumored. It's going to be great.
Well, it's coming to PC soon. Well, no, Forbidden West is coming to PC soon.
Yeah, Forbidden West is coming to PC soon. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it would be wrong of us if we didn't ask some PlayStation questions, not even about VR. You're the host of the PlayStation Drive. What is your favorite game that you like on PlayStation right now? What's a game that you're looking forward to? And is PlayStation in a good spot right now?
Okay. So first off, as far as games I like currently, are you referring to PlayStation 5 specifically when you ask that question, or
what you play on your
PlayStation?
What you play on PlayStation?
So first off, my most played game, and honestly my favorite game on the PlayStation 5, home console, is Final Fantasy 14, because I've spent over 5,000 hours playing that game on the PlayStation consoles, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. And I continue to play it on PlayStation. We've got a new expansion coming out this year, Dawn Trail, which I'm super excited for. But I mean, as far as games this year that I've played, Persona 3 Reload, I love it. We're gonna do like a big kind of discussion on RPG Cave about it this week, and it's on Game Pass. But I played it on PlayStation because I am that person. Because I
understand. Don't worry, I understand.
The old platinum trophy for it and whatnot. So a lot of third-party games is usually what I play on Sony platforms. I also love Helldivers 2, though. That's probably like the best Sony published game that I've played in a long time. It's a fantastic game to play with friends, and I love it very much. As far as what I'm excited about, later this month, Sony is publishing a Team Ninja game, Rise of the Ronin.
Rise of the Ronin, yeah.
Which I am really, really excited about. Of course, you kind of play like a ninja-style character, and you're...
it looks like Sekiro. Souls-like. Have you ever played Sekiro?
I love Sekiro.
It looks like it plays like that. There's like a parry system, and I think it even has like the hook shot or whatever that was called.
It does. Yeah, it looks very similar, and that was honestly probably my favorite From Software Souls-like game is Sekiro.
What about Bloodborne?
And I love Team Ninja as well, because I going all the way back to the Ninja Gaiden days. But then I also like Dead or Alive a lot, and Neo. I like both Neo 1 and 2. So and then Wolong, which came out last year from them as well, was also really good too. So I'm very excited for Rise of the Ronin. That's probably like the next big Sony game that I'm like really jazzed for. Although Stella Blade's definitely on my radar. I'm pretty excited about that too. I'm a little bummed that they put out the demo
And they
on
took it down?
Friday or Saturday, and they took it down before I had a chance to play it. So I'm excited for when that comes
Apparently
back.
that's a Souls-like. I didn't know that was a Souls-like.
I didn't know either. So I guess we'll find out. But either way, it looks cool, and I'm excited to play it. And as far as where Sony's positioned, I like where they're positioned because obviously they're kind of top at the food chain right now in a lot of ways. But I also feel like they're getting a little complacent. Like we know pretty much for a fact that they don't really have first party releases coming until after March of 2025 at this point. Like basically this fiscal year, they will be publishing third party stuff, like Rise of the Ronin or Stellar Blade, but they're not going to have like a first party offering at all. And it's been a long time since we've heard from a lot of these studios. Like we haven't heard from Bend or Sucker Punch or a lot of these other studios that Sony has in a very long time. And they were going in this live service direction, but now they're pivoting from the live service direction, and I feel like they're a little bit lost in the weeds a bit, or lost in their fame in a lot of ways, because they've won in a lot of ways. They've won the console war between them and Xbox, but now what? Like what's that next step? Like what do they do now? Like what's next from Sony first party? And I think we're still going to wait a while before we even hear the answer to that question. So while I do think that they're well positioned this year with a lot of third party games, obviously they have the biggest third party exclusive for the entire year with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on their console just releasing. Mm-hmm. Like I think they're in a great position, but I really am worried about how they're going to be positioned for the future.
I mean, I can't speak from experience. I don't have a PlayStation. I can only just stay on the sidelines, I guess, and hear what everybody is talking about. And as far as like just from my point of view, I think it seems like they are trying to dabble a little bit in the like movie and series arena, I guess, more than kind of focusing on their first party games. And I think it's good if they can figure out like how to get more people to play their games. Like after The Last of Us, so many people went on and bought that game and just because they wanted to experience it with the show.
Yeah. Sales just shot up for it. And actually we saw something similar with the Gran Turismo movie and Gran Turismo 7. Like that Gran Turismo is already a series that sells really well, but like a lot more people jumped into Gran Turismo after the movie came out, which was interesting to see as well, which is weird because, originally there was supposed to be a Twisted Metal game that was supposed to be timed with the Twisted Metal TV show, which people liked.
Yeah.
But there was no game.
Wasn't a live wasn't one of the live service games that was rumored?
Yeah, that was one of the live service games that was rumored was Twisted Metal. So
I wonder if they're regretting that decision to like not lean into live service because Helldivers is live service. They might be regretting not putting them on PC day one.
Right. But also I think like that was probably the wrong move to begin with, converting everything to live service, because that was essentially the mantra where they announced that they had 10 live service games in development. Like you can't have that many live service games all hit. Like you might have 2 of them that might hit, like Helldivers in another one, but like you can't really engineer that success. Like it just kind of happens or it doesn't, and it's really just up to kind of how the community responds to it. Like look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League right now. Like they can't get people to play that game despite the fact that,
and Warner Brothers is leaning into live service now.
Yeah,
bunch of dummies.
No, it's just you just can't have an infinite number of live service games, because the whole point of live service games is that you spend all your time playing that live service game, so you don't have time to play other live service games. Like that's the tough part about it. But also, like, we keep hearing rumblings that there's going to be some non-live servicey stuff. We know that obviously Sony is publishing the Until Dawn remake, of course, to coincide with the Until Dawn movie that's coming out. We also know that there's a Gravity Rush live action movie coming out. We keep hearing about a remaster or remake of Gravity Rush 2 that's supposed to be coming out as well. So, to your point about the movies and TV stuff, like, it seems like their goal, I guess, for first party stuff is to when they make a movie, they have a game kind of release along with it, kind of like they did with Last of Us as an example.
Yeah. How well did Uncharted do? Like, did those sales go anywhere?
I mean, I didn't really hear much about the sales of Uncharted after the movie, but I also don't think the movie did incredibly well either.
Right.
Yeah. But it's not like Last of Us, where Last of Us was one of the most watched HBO shows in their history. So, of course, the game is going to do really well because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, likewise, is a live action Gravity Rush movie going to get people to go play Gravity Rush 2 on the PlayStation 5? I don't know if that's gonna be the case. As much as I love Gravity Rush, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing, or even Until Dawn. I love Until Dawn so much, but even the idea of doing an Until Dawn movie is weird to me because that game is all
essentially a movie.
The
game's essentially a movie.
Yeah, the game's essentially a movie already, but then like you lose it a little bit of something when you take the choice element out of it, I think.
I was just thinking like Sony Animation, I think, could do a great job with a Ratchet and Clank. And I know there's been like a Ratchet and Clank movie before.
There was one. It was really bad, but there was one.
Right. But or like Astrobot, I think would be another great movie that they could probably pull off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Johnny and I have kind of talked about this before when it comes to games. It just seems like more console makers are just kind of leaning more into other ways to get their IP to be seen, to get others to, invest in their games. And Sony, I think right now is probably doing the most when it comes to bringing their games into this new medium.
Especially after the success
not
of
that
Last of
movies
Us,
and TV is a new medium, but just like seeing it happen now.
No, especially after the success of Last of Us or even Gran Turismo, like, of course they're gonna take that lesson away from it, and I think I definitely think that's a good way of cross promoting your brand and getting people interested in playing the games. I know a lot of people who had never played The Last of Us before and watched that TV show, and they're like, "Oh, this is based off a game? Oh, maybe I should check this out." And maybe we should tell Microsoft to do that because they don't do that at all with any of their stuff. Obviously, we have the Fallout TV show coming.
Hey, they have Halo, all right? They have Halo.
Yeah, but that doesn't get anyone to play Halo because of the fact that they literally did everything in their power to not make that show anything about Halo at all. So, although I hear season 2 is much better. So,
I haven't watched it.
Well, I don't think it's out yet, is it?
No, it's out. It's they're releasing it episode by episode each week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, Sony tried to market Spider-Man 2 with Madam Web, and I don't know if that caused any sales. Who knows?
No. Well, it didn't really get people to go see Madam Web either. So there is that. But
I actually do like PlayStation. I've had a PlayStation for a long time. My favorite PlayStation game is Bloodborne, and they're never going to give us a remastered Bloodborne, and it makes me sad.
Well, it's because they'd have to probably get From Software's either blessing or they have to work on it.
They did Demon Souls. They did Demon Souls.
I think that's different though. There's something with the rights with Bloodborne that we don't know about that's preventing, I think, that from happening. Because you and I both know that if there wasn't something preventing this from happening, they would have done it already.
Yeah. I just want 60 FPS. That's all I want. 30 FPS in those games is rough.
Or God forbid, improving the load times. Yeah, because even the PlayStation 5 natural upgrade for the load times for Bloodborne is still really painful. So, but I've also been a PlayStation person since the PlayStation 1, and it's weird because I used to be on Xbox Drive every week with Sean for 3 years, and our dynamic was always be that he was the Xbox guy and I was the PlayStation guy who happened to also play Xbox. Mm-hmm. But I've always really been like a PlayStation person, going back to the PlayStation 1. But all my friends had N64s. I got a PlayStation because I wanted to play role-playing games, and the rest has kind of been history since then.
Hey, there's some RPGs on N64. All right, there's Paper Mario.
N64. There's 2. They got 2 of them. Okay, they're not good. But
what about SNES? SNES has a ton of RPGs.
Well, of course they did, but I was more of a Sega kid than a Super Nintendo kid anyway. So
all right, I think it's time to end the podcast.
Jeez. Yeah, it's funny because like I'm one of those weird people that had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis growing up, and I ended up becoming a Sega kid instead of a Nintendo kid, which is just bizarre.
Boo. Boo. Boo this man.
But I had Sega Channel when I was a kid, which was, for folks that don't know, was a subscription through your cable service where you got a special cartridge you put in your Genesis that allowed you to download games from Sega's server to then, play games on your console. And I got exposed to just so many more games on Genesis that way. And it was kind of like Game Pass before Game Pass.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Game Pass, but in 1994. Essentially, it was super cool. I did a whole video about it on
Sega was ahead of their time, and they got screwed over.
Yeah, exactly. And come on, they got Shining Force, they got and Phantasy Star. Those are good RPGs.
All right, well, we are over an hour. We don't want to take up any more of your time. I could talk about PlayStation and RPGs more than Sheezy because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm a sorry excuse for a gamer, but do you have any closing thoughts on VR and gaming and Sony and just any and all thoughts?
I mean, ultimately, I'm just, hoping for, as far as VR is concerned, I'm just hoping for more stuff to do with it, my VR headset. And I think we're going to get it. I think it's going to get there, but it's just going to take time. And I'm looking forward to seeing the future of it. And I'm just excited for, what's coming from PlayStation, even though they're kind of in a weird spot at the moment. We've got new leadership coming in at PlayStation with Hiroki Totoki, so I'm interested to see how the company is going to kind of pivot and change because of that. And I do think it'll probably change in a positive direction when it comes to that. And overall, I'm just excited to play new games. Like, that's just my thing. I love playing new games and talking about games. So I just can't wait to see what's next over the horizon. Huge thank you again to you both for having me on the show. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for being on.
And of course, I could talk about RPGs and PlayStation all day. So,
Well, you are going to be talking about it tomorrow. Where can people find you?
Of course, you can find me on the old Twitter, otherwise known as X, at Ryan Turford. You can also find our content over at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, where we go live with all of our podcasts. We have a RPG show, Xbox show, PlayStation show, and Nintendo show. So regardless of what console you're into, we are definitely well represented over at Carpool. And of course, our website, carpoolgaming.com, for all of our merch, and of course, links to all of our podcast feeds and everything else you would need to know from us.
And Johnny, where can people find you?
I'm Johnny Bo everywhere: Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok for now.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah.
And you can find me on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Communication Error Podcast.
The Nintendo Powercast. Oh my god.
Yeah, Nintendo Powercast. And thank you, Ryan, so much for being here.
Yeah,
and
thanks for
we'll get you on again. Anytime that there's some Sony news, we know who to talk to.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back and talk about more Sony news with you guys.
Awesome.